In this video, I'm going to start animating some compositions that I brought in from Illustrator and Photoshop. So I'm going to start with the Illustrator document, and I've already imported it, so now I can start editing it and animating it. So I have this lever and I want to rotate it. So first I'm going to zoom in by scrolling, or I can also press the period key to zoom in and the comma key to zoom out. Now, if I want this lever to rotate, and I went ahead and opened up the lever and found the rotation and rotated it. Currently it's rotating around the center of that shape, which I really don't want because I want it to rotate from the base here so it actually acts like a lever. So to do that, I need to change the anchor point. And each of these layers is going to have its own anchor point, and I can change it in a couple of ways. In this case, I think the easiest way to change it is to go to my anchor point tool, which is at the top here, and then I can just grab the anchor point and move it down to the base, which is where I want it for rotating purposes. Now note there also is an anchor point here, so I can just adjust it this way as well, but notice how that's affecting the shape in a slightly different way. So I like to use the anchor point tool, usually the one up top here. So once I have the anchor point in the proper place, I'm going to go ahead and move my scrubber to the beginning of the timeline, and I'm going to activate the rotation keyframes by clicking the stopwatch. So I get my first keyframe, and then I'm going to go ahead and just move over 2 seconds, and then I'm going to rotate this just a little bit so it's going to run into this gear and hit it. So now when I go and play back, I can see that this is moving. And if it's moving too fast or too slow, you can always simply come back and move the keyframe a little bit. So now it'll move faster because it's happening over less time. Right, and so we have our first keyframe, and now we're going to have to start matching up keyframes because I was thinking that this lever would get pushed and then it would make the gears spin and then it would lift up this pawn here. So I then need to find this gear, and I've named this one magenta gear. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up and open up its transform controls, and I'm going to have to start rotating it. Now I have to back up until I see this is going to hit here, and it turns out that before I even keyframe this, I'm going to want to rotate it just a little bit so that when this lever comes, it doesn't hit that first spoke. And then once it hits here, I'm going to want to start moving the gear. So I'm going to go ahead and here I'm going to add my rotation keyframe so it's not moving yet. And then once it hits, it is going to start moving. And I'm going to go ahead and just make my next keyframe here so that when it hits, it's kind of following. Right, it's following that, so it looks like it's kind of hit it and started moving. And then we can just move it a little bit more, and we're going to have to smooth this out as we go. But once the next spoke is going to hit the lever, I'm perhaps going to want to have that happen, and then I'll actually have the lever move just a little bit more. So as this starts here, I'm just going to click. Now up here, rotation, I'm going to go ahead and just add a free frame by clicking on the keyframe so it stays there, and then when it moves, I can then go ahead and rotate this back down just a little bit. And if you're having trouble being precise, you can actually type in numbers here. And now that, let's see what we have so far. So I'm going to press spacebar, which plays, and then we've gone here. So now what I was hoping to do is I was hoping to have the lever snap back and spin the gear the other way. Right, so this way we get a little bit of play and then it kind of shoots back that way. So, then I'm going to come over about a second. And this again, the timing might be inexact at first, but you can tighten it up after you have these keyframes. So now I want to bring this lever back here. So it's kind of snapped back because it's kind of hit and gone as far as it could. So now I need to have the gear follow that. And for the gear to follow that, I am just going to go ahead and have it this until this is out of the way. And I could have lots of keyframes, but I'm just going to go ahead and go to here, and then I'm just going to try to figure out what that rotation is. So I'm going to go to 180. And that actually looks like an okay speed because it's kind of pushing off at an okay speed. And that was just kind of a lucky guess. So now when we play this, right, it looks like it's actually hitting that. So now we have our first set of keyframes, and then we can go on to begin to animate the next gear to have this roll through. And I need to start animating that as soon as this gear starts moving in a way that will hit this. So my first keyframe for the green spoke is going to be right about there. So then I can go ahead and open that up and start keyframing my rotations here so that it's not moving until then. And then when it starts to move, right, I have to have it tracked to move this way first. And I'm just going to have it move until we get to this keyframe, so it's going to snap back. And so then I have to just go ahead and get this to move a little bit here, so we've kind of matched it up there. And then we can go back and see that it's kind of lining up nicely. Okay, and then when the gear snaps back, right, we have to start moving this again. So now I'm going to go ahead here, my green gear, and then I'm going to start spinning this green gear, and I'm going to spin it about 180 degrees just so it matches up. So I'm going to go to about -160, and I'm just clicking and dragging. And so now let's see what that looks like. All right, so we have a pretty good match there, and then the next step would be to bring this lever up as this starts to spin. And so we'll do that next. Come over here. All right, first let me go ahead and find this, and this is going to be the pawn lift. And the pawn is just going to move with the pawn lift, so we'll deal with that in a second. But first let me deal with the pawn lift so I can get that keyframed. All right, so basically this is a little bit simpler because this is just going to move up and down. So as soon as this green gear starts moving, this is going to move down a little bit, and then it's going to shoot back up. So let me find out where it's going to hit, where the green gear is going to hit it. Just very kind of slow motion scrubbing, so it's going to happen right there. So I'm going to go ahead, and this time I'm just doing a position. So I'm going to hit my position stopwatch, and then this is going to start to go down just a little bit. And so I'm going to again grab my Y position and just move it down a little bit. Because then it's going to start to snap back up. So when it starts to snap back up, then I'm going to come back here again, and I'm just going to move this up a lot. And let's see if that looks okay. Okay, that looks okay. And next I have a couple of options here with my pawn. I have one option, which is just to have it follow the ladder. But in this case, I'm going to have this kind of get thrown off. So I'm going to go ahead and find the pawn, open up its transform controls, stopwatch its position at the beginning, and I'm going to make it actually not move when the ladder goes up. But then when it starts to go up, I am going to start to have it move. So I'm going to add another keyframe right here, just simply by clicking the keyframe button there, and then I am going to have this follow up. And right here, I am then going to just use my position, and again, I'm going to have it move up here to keep pace with it, and then I am going to actually just have it completely shoot off into space as the animation ends. So now let's see what we have here. So we have the lever hitting, spinning the gears, we go up, and then the pawn keeps going up and out. And so that's basically the end of the animation. So I don't need all 30 seconds here. So let me just go ahead and grab my work area and move it in basically to the end here. So I basically have a 5-second clip of things moving, giving some feedback, and it's still a little bit mechanical. But that's maybe a little okay here since this is a very mechanical animation. But we might want to add a little bit more bounce, and maybe we'll do that in the next composition when we look at the Photoshop one.